Welcome to the Stay Curious podcast brought to you by Alpha UK. My name's Chloe and this is Alex.
This podcast is all about being open-minded, staying curious and fueling your intrigue. We're going to be hearing stories from people all across the UK and beyond. We're going to be covering big things, small things, the totally irreverent as well as the deeply theological. We hope you have fun listening along.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Stay Curious podcast.
Yes, welcome back. We've had a little bit of a break over Christmas, although if you haven't yet listened to our Christmas episode with Bishop Graham Tomlin, I would thoroughly recommend it, not only for the 40 before 40 challenges, but also because he answers the fundamental question we are all asking on the 25th of December. Is there a real Santa Claus? So listen back to that one.
Yeah, it was a good one. And speaking of 40 before 40, if you're new to listening, Alex is turning 40 this year.
Yeah, and I couldn't be making more of a fuss about it, I would say.
Yeah.
I really am making it a communal effort.
Well, you got to, because I think, do you really want to make a big fuss about your 50th or 60th?
No, this is...
Because then you're getting really old.
I think it's masking a deep sort of like anxiety about it, probably.
Yeah.
That's what's really going on.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? No, I'm joking.
Let's
keep it fun and light. So, the Christmas special of the 40 for 40 was fun. But now you've only got 5 months to finish your 40 challenges before you become 40. How are they going
I
now?
don't think it's going to happen. I've lost all faith that I can get it done, and I've totally run out of ideas. So I'm in the market for some ideas of 40 before 40 ideas. If you don't know, it's something I either haven't done before or a challenge that I could do or a new experience. So if you've got any, email us at uk@alpha.org or drop us a DM on our Instagram, Run Alpha. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
is
Run
that
Alpha.
Instagram?
Yeah. You're the national director.
I should know that.
You should know that.
Yeah. So,
but the reason you haven't done more is because you actually don't know what to do.
Yes.
So we genuinely want to hear your 40 before 40 suggestions.
Yeah, really good. But otherwise, people have been in touch with other stuff, Chloe, as ever. Listener questions.
They have loads of questions. So we've got a question.
You say loads, there's probably been 3.
Yeah.
We've picked the best
enough for every podcast.
Yeah. We're spreading them out.
Let's kick off with a question from Steve from Belfast. Oh. And he says, I'm curious to know, what's your biggest ick?
Steve
says ick, but I
would say ick is a new thing that a man called Steve has just come across.
No, because old names are
back in.
I
don't know if Steve is back in.
It kind of is. Baby Steve. No, it kind of is.
I don't think it is. You know, in Florrie's class, Florrie's 7, and there's an Alan, baby Alan.
Baby Clive.
Baby Clive would be good.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
So if you need baby name suggestions, listen to this podcast.
Baby Clive.
Biggest ick. Okay, if you don't know what an ick is.
Yes.
Am I right in saying it could be described as a pet peeve? That might be more of a...
I think it's something that turns you off, actually, Chloe. Okay. I think it's more than a pet peeve. I think it's something that makes you like, ugh.
Oh, because I was going to say...
Unattractive. It's something unattractive.
Okay, well, it can kind of be the same. Because I was going to say being late. Like, I really don't like it when people are late.
I don't think that's an ick.
That's not an ick, that's a pet peeve.
Yeah, I think that's a pet peeve.
All right.
We on the weekend celebrated our dog's first birthday, and my wife posted pictures of the dog and played games with the dog. And was like, happy birthday, dog. And that was an ick for me. We actually got messages from some friends saying it was an ick for them.
Okay, I've got a better one.
What is it?
Okay, when people post on Instagram and say, oh, sorry if you do this, and say I'm married to my best friend.
Yes.
Or 12 years with my...
I want to say that.
Yeah.
I'm not married to my best friend. My best friend is Josh.
My best friend's Becky.
Yeah. If I married Josh, it would be a different thing.
No. Very different. I'm not married to my best friend.
Neither am I.
2 years with my best friend.
I don't think separate out best friend.
I agree. You need to get friends. That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
Sorry if you do that.
No, sorry. That is an ick, actually. Yeah. Send us your icks. We'd love to know. We'd love to hear all about your icks. Very good. Well, anyway, our guest today on our podcast is a really good friend of ours, Elle Limebear. Ellie, welcome to the Stay Curious podcast.
Hello.
Have you got an ick?
Oh, have you got it? This is a great conversation. My brother actually has a notes on his full
list
of icks.
Icks.
He just has a list of icks.
Wow.
And one recent ick that I saw and was like, I resonate with that, is someone like a grown man. I'm married, so I, love Tom, but if Tom was stumbling on the ice rink, slipping around, that's an ick.
Yeah, although you know what else would be an ick is if he did a pirouette.
Yes. But it's please just skate. Please, can you just...
Yeah, but
I'd rather you be bad than good.
You need to be the right level of ice skater.
Oh my God.
If you're terrible, but also if you're doing little flicks, then
I know, you've got the professionals there, the white boots, haven't you?
Yeah.
If he was one of them,
I've brought my own skates.
Yes.
That's
that would be
I brought my own.
But I love this conversation. I'm in.
Any pet peeves?
Separate categories.
So, I mean, there's many. But like the ice skating thing, I'm like, that is, when you see someone, you're like, oh, just hold on to the side.
Yeah,
Just hold
I
on to
know.
the side.
Yeah, that is really embarrassing. Hey, it's great to have you on the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Love being here. Thank you for having me.
Really, really good. Ellie, for people who don't know, you are a musician, a worship leader, a recent author as well.
Gosh, yeah.
Any other things that you're a mum to 2 boys?
I am a mum to 2 boys.
How old is the littlest one?
Wilson is now 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's getting his...
I'm really glad you said Wilson and not Clive or
Oh my
Steve.
God. Baby Alan.
Baby Steve.
Alan
I've
is
got 2 kids.
5
Alan and
months.
Steve.
Oh my God, can you imagine? I'm just sitting there just like...
Yeah.
But yes.
She leaves.
Oh my gosh.
5
I
months
would
is
go.
young though for you to be sort of still working and out and about. Like most people would take a big mat leave. You're out and about again.
I know, that does sound nice, a nice mat leave, but with the kind of what I do with music stuff, it's, self-employed life. So you got to just keep on moving. But do you know what? I surprised myself with my first son. I said to my husband, Tom, it'd be great to have like a year off, and then it got to like 2 months and I'm like, let's go somewhere. Like, I feel good in myself. Maccabee, our eldest, like, great baby, adaptable, easy. I'm like, let's go, let's do something. What should we do? And so we took him to America at 11 weeks old, and we did like a little tour. And it sounds crazy, but it was like we were together, like the 3 of us, and we just went around.
How was the plane journey? Honestly, we took Annie to Mallorca when she was 2, and it was traumatic.
Oh no!
Yeah, she was like
Yeah, but
screaming
2,
and fighting.
that's
and
like,
But
they're
two's
busy
different.
and,
Okay.
Yeah, like newborn baby vibe. They just sleep,
just
poo,
sleep.
and eat.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we
Travel
were
younger.
Yeah, travel. I say travel.
But is this true? You used to travel a lot when you were young because you're
Yes.
one of 6.
Yes. So my childhood was very much like we go together as a family, travel, all wearing very coordinated outfits. Must I hate to add?
Really?
I know. I look back at photos like, Mum, why
What
are
were
we
you
all
thinking, Mum?
matching?
Do you
Like,
still
are
do the
we all
Christmas
matching?
pajamas?
I
Or
mean,
matching?
I'd love to say no, but
Bet you do.
Mum somehow waggles us all in the family.
But it's when that's not just Christmas Day and it's, July.
Yeah,
and
it's
you're
like
all matching.
I'm so there's 6 of us, and it was just like me, like 8 years old, like all matching outfits. Anyway, but it was so fun. Like I have such fond memories of traveling all together, and you'd get back home to England, and like no one knew, who Dad was, what his music was, and we just went to a local village school and go back into like PE with my plimp soles on. Do you know what I mean? Like no one knew or cared.
For people who don't know, your dad was in a band called Delirious.
Yes.
And then he went on to make lots of his own music as well.
Yes.
But is it because they were much more famous in America? Is that
Yeah, I feel like
with people who knew them, they were like massive fans.
But
like,
Delirious was huge in the UK.
Yeah, I feel like maybe Brits are just different with that. Just like, oh, there's like David Beckham over there. Do you think that far?
No way.
Absolutely
No,
not, Ellie. Yeah. We running over. David!
I had posters of David Beckham all over my bedroom wall.
Really?
Did
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I
Oh my
did.
God.
Well, it was
What
my-
haircut was he? Did he
all
have?
of them. All of
Have
them,
you watched
Ellie.
the Beckham documentary?
loved it.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
so
it took
good,
me
isn't
back.
it?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
That is really
Oh.
By the way, they were my brother's football posters, which I
Not like-
stole and put in my little Wendy house. So
is-
one
in your
day
Wendy
he was
house?
looking for my brother was looking for his football stickers, and my mum said, "Oh, I don't know." And then my sister went in to help me clean my room because I was a princess, and she found all the David Beckham posters.
I would say
Wow.
Wendy House, ick.
Or just shows my age.
Oh my God.
Is Wendy House not a thing? What would you call it?
No, I just imagine you're old enough to put David Beckham posters up. You're too old for a Wendy House.
I was quite young.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't like 15 in a Wendy house.
Yeah.
I was really little. I loved David from a long time.
Okay.
Anyway.
So
back
you,
to Delirious.
you used to travel. You used to travel with your mum and your dad and all your siblings.
Yeah, and all my cousins, all the band members' kids were my cousins. So like uncle. Yeah, so it was a whole troop of us. But it's just honestly so many fond memories of traveling. And I now ask Mum, like, now I've got my own kids, like, how was that? Like, there was 6 of us. How did you do that with Dad? Like traveling a lot and sound checks, and just, like you just do things to like cope. And she had her sisters with her, but the different like flight thing, like I don't know, she gave us all like a magazine for every flight. That was like her coping thing of like, everyone's got a magazine for the flight, hopefully that will keep on going for a bit.
Yeah.
But just the things that she would put in place, and like the matching outfits, just like that was great for washing. So like, you'd get somewhere and everything would bundle in, like wash, like practically.
That's quite clever.
And so she's given me lots of like tips for now our life, traveling as like a family, and we're not all in matching outfits, but it's so fun. So like I'm loving doing this like with my family, with Tom and the boys, and it feels like there's grace for it though. You know, when it's like sometimes it doesn't make sense, and I don't get how it is working because we do have 2 little boys, but it just feels like there's grace for this season to like to travel and to do music. And for Tom, you know, Tom runs his own business too, and it feels like it's all kind of coinciding, and somehow it's working, all literally by the grace of God. And then we feel like when the grace gets lifted, when things feel like, okay, well, let's, you know, chat a bit more, work things out differently. But for the time being, somehow it's all working. And the boys are loving it. And Maccabee's obsessed with drums. So every church we go to, he's like in soundcheck, like ready with his sticks. Like, can I go now?
Did you always, because you grew up in a family where music and worship music was such a big thing, did you always expect to go into leading worship and making music?
No, not at all, honestly. I think I remember, you know, so many Delirious gigs and, you know, watching Dad lead worship and so many shows. And I remember being like, oh, I think deep down I was like, I would love to do that. Like, but then I had so much fear, like from a really young age of like anything to do with music. I was like, I can never do that. Like not, I was really scared of microphones for a really long time. Like I didn't want anyone to hear me sing. I didn't want anyone to know that I could sing. Like even throughout school, like secondary school, my music teacher would encourage me to like, why don't you try harmonising with this? And I just didn't want anyone to hear me sing. And like by the time I got to year 11, I maybe did like one performance piece out of something, and it like I was petrified. I think I literally like frozen. Like, but I just didn't. I was just so fearful. Honestly, I was so fearful of fear of man. Really, that's what it was. And so definitely it's been a journey. But I've always loved music and I've loved singing. So I'd like in my room, I'd like put on Girls Aloud on my CD player, print out all the lyrics, and like just go for it, and like belt out every, you know, Sugar Babes. There was I, and worship music, of course. But you know, there was this like passion to sing, a passion like for people to like be gathered to. Like I've always loved church. I've always loved, you know, grown up going to church every single Sunday, and I just love that. I do love church, and so I feel like it's been a journey of gaining confidence and people speaking into my life about, you know, leading worship and doing music. That's really spurred me on. Like our worship pastor in Brighton, he was really such a key person in my life to like encourage me in my worship leading. Shout out P-Nels.
I know, he is my daughter's godfather.
Yes.
He is probably the nicest man in the world.
I think so. I would say that.
Big claim.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Let's
agree.
get him on the podcast.
I know. All right. Future request. We'll book
Come
him in.
on. But you know, people like him and my dad would just slowly like, oh, why don't you come and like do some backing vocals here or here, and just I would be like, why would you? I don't even know if I can really sing, and you know, but they obviously saw something that I really didn't see, and so like I now so value encouragement and encouraging other people too. Like encouragement is so underrated. I think when you see something in someone, say it to them, because they might not even know that they've got that in them. And so like I always encourage people, like if you see something that you love or see something like gold in people, like tell them, because no one else might say anything. And so those people for me were definitely like champions in my story with music. And so yeah, it's definitely been a journey of confidence and realizing when I was 20, like God really clearly spoke to me about doing music. I was like, oh gosh, this is the moment like I really almost didn't want to happen, because I'm so petrified. I don't want to do this, God. Yeah. But he was just so clear in like, just trust me, just watch what I do. And then it felt like doors were just opening very quickly after that, to write music, to go to America a lot, to tour. And I was just like, what's going on? Like, I don't actually want this. Like, this is terrifying. I want to be at home. I want to like run my photography business. And like, that's what I was doing. I love Brighton. I want to be able to go, you know, hang out with my friends and go to their birthday parties. Like, I was just missing things too that I hated. But then, you know, the fruit of it, I guess, is like, oh, he was stretching me. He was like really it's like what the road I was meant to go down, you know. But yeah, with fear though, and it was only honestly these past few years that I've actually like almost enjoyed it because fear robbed the joy of all the things.
What's your favourite song?
Ever?
No, your favourite of your songs. Before you arrived, we were
What's
singing
your favourite Girls Aloud number that
yeah.
you used to belt
Yeah,
out?
the show. Yeah.
The show?
I was just saying it's a great song.
I love that you know that.
We really like Girls Aloud at Uni.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Bring them back.
They're not coming back. They're doing a tour. They're doing a tour.
They're not. Let's all go. I'll get a VIP ticket.
Down at the end.
Get us to a meet and greet. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
Yeah. So what's your favourite song of yours?
I think one of my personal favourites is probably Angels.
Oh, yes. We were talking about it.
I'm loving angels instead.
Yeah.
But not
One by
Robbie Williams documentary, also good on Netflix.
Yes, heard about that.
Really
Need
good.
to watch it.
Yeah.
I think because it's such a personal story of like where that came from, and so I feel like so connected to it. And also, my boys request it. My boy Maccabee requests it every night, which I'm so gassed about because it helps him sleep. So I'm like, thank you, Maccabee. Bring out the streams. Bring out the streams.
Yeah, come on, everybody. You mentioned, I've got a copy of your book because you mentioned fear, which sounded like it had been quite a big part of your journey and your mental health, like growing up and stuff. And recently you wrote this book, Say Goodbye to Anxiety.
Which is lovely.
Yes.
Like, it looks lovely. The artwork is beautiful. But I also love that it's like, you've done the devotion really well. It's not just a Bible verse, but there's a little like pep talk and then a Bible verse. And I love that you've got a song to listen to and then questions to ask. It's done so well. It's lovely.
You. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So me and my friend Jane wrote it, which Jane is like a good long-term friend. She's like a bit older than me. We're in like different generations, but she's someone that I've always gone to in my lowest days and like the pits of my anxiety that I would just like be like, Jane, and she lives in Hastings, so I'd get the train over and just literally just be like a puddle. But her story is also with anxiety. And if you read it, you'll learn more about her story, but she was more on medication and that side of things, where mine's, just a recent almost 5 years discovery of like, oh wow, this is actually what I've been going through, and I had no idea that this is what's been eating me. And so, it's like, it feels vulnerable, honestly. Like every time, like even now, I'm like, oh yeah, that's like part of my story. But it is. And like, I think there's a lot of shame at the start of like discovering like, oh, well, I'm not supposed, oh no, I'm a worship leader and like, I love Jesus and I talk about fear in my songs and like no more to fear, but I'm actually struggling. So what does that even mean? And how can I talk about this honestly, but with truth? And so it's definitely been a journey over these past few years of like, oh, actually, I don't want to live like this. Oh gosh, I don't want to be a fearful mother, a grandmother. I don't want to get to be old and grey and be like, oh, I'm still living in fear and like things are squashing me down. And just realising like, oh no, the power of God, the power of his word is insane. Like, and we can talk about, the power of God, like the Bible, the word of God, but it's like, oh, if we actually believe like the living truth, like it is transformational. And so the hope of this book is to encourage those also, struggling with anxiety. Maybe it's been a recent discovery or a year, lifetime of it, but every day is like a pep talk. So each day it's a little pep talk and then a page of questions just to help you like get to the bottom of it. We hope like it's like these questions that you've never almost asked yourself before. Like, oh, actually, where has this come from, and what does terrify me, or like so hopefully with God in your devotional time to ask these questions, and with a song, it's just always good to have like a song to back, like the soundtrack of your day that's got truth in it, and hopefully will stick in your head for the rest of your day. That's what we were hoping, that it gets in your noggin. But just we believe in like the freedom. Like I can't believe how far like God's taken me from like 3 years ago, where I was like, this is gonna be my life forever. I'm just gonna be fearful of this and this and anxious about this and this and this and this. But like what he has done and helped me through is like, can't believe it. Like even one of the things is like driving was a huge thing for me. I didn't pass my driving test until like 2 years ago, and I'm 26, so yeah, I was about 24, and I just had Maccabee, so I was like new mum, but it had been such a massive thing in my head to drive, like I just petrified of driving, and all my siblings younger than me had passed the test, years before. They were driving me around, do you know what I mean? They were picking me up from places, but I just it just terrified me, the thought of driving. But I was just like so determined for that not to take over me. I'm like, no, I want to be independent as a mum. I want to be able to like drop my kids off at the doctor's and take them to classes, and I don't want this fear of driving to stop me. So I had to battle through like some things like on the daily. But it's crazy, like I passed my test 2 years ago, but now I'm like, I get excited to drive my car. Like, how is that? Why is that? But like only God, that he's actually turned something that I was once absolutely petrified to do. Now it's like joy. I'm like, I get to get in my car, I get to put my music on and just drive, like, and pick someone up here. And I'm like, wow, only God, because I never would have thought that I would enjoy driving. And here we are. So yeah, that's just one thing, but I'm like, he can do it. Like he can, what's it, like beauty from ashes? That is it. That is like truth of what he does. And so yeah, hopefully this book is an encouragement to people. It's 40 days too, so it's like I encourage everyone to like do every single day.
Day by day.
Yeah, day by day.
The you sort of talk a little bit in here about how you have also spoken to me a bit about identity and how your confidence is shaped when your identity comes from God. And actually we had a listener question sent in. I've forgotten the name of the lady who wrote it in, but she wrote, and basically she's got 2 children who are going into secondary school. Yeah. And she said, how do I help to support them to grow up knowing their identity in Jesus when they're surrounded by so many voices that are trying to... And you have met both my girls, Annie and Florrie, who are both totally obsessed with Ellie. But whenever they see Ellie, they go, hello. And I'm like, you can say hello now. They're like, hello. And then she goes, they go, I love her so much. Anyway,
you're the David Beckham in there.
Yeah, you are the hostess in the Wendy house. Yeah.
Wendy house.
Yeah. But how will you do that with your kids, do you think? But also how, like, any things that you've learnt in your own life that I could, like, learn from parenting my kids?
Oh, wow. I know. And me and Tom are like constantly talking about this. Like now, like parenting, like Maccabee's old enough to like parent. And like he's doing things where like, oh gosh, what do we think about that? Like, how are we going to parent in this way, And so it's definitely something that we're like even going to school in a few years, like, wow, he's going to be with people that we can't control. To be like, don't do that to my boy. But you're so protective, aren't you? Just like, and he can't know that. He can't listen to that. But you can't live like that in a world, we live in the world, and that is the truth of it, isn't it? But us as parents and as family units, like there is we do have authority in like our kids' lives, don't we? And what we can teach them, what we can tell them. And so I think just like affirming them in who they are too. And I don't know, I'm just already, lies that will probably be spoken over them, like us all, do you know what I mean? That but just kind of almost like combat that like before anything like comes their way of like, no, you are brave, let me tell you. Like, I don't know, just affirming those things before anyone tells them otherwise. But I think community is such a big thing. I'm so aware of like, I want Maccabee to be in a community that is going to like champion him, but also like bring him up on things too. And church is so beautiful for that, when you've got people way older than you, younger than you. Like I've got, friends who are like 60 years old. Like when else do you have like a 60-year-old friend outside of church? Yes, church is quite
unique like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, which is so beautiful. And, of course, like churches can be complex for lots of people too. I'm not saying it's always easy, but in my experience, like I've really cherished those friendships that are, wise counsel older than me, but also people younger than me, like challenging me on things. I'm like, yeah, good on you. Like, yeah, why do I do that? Or why did I post about that? So I'm hoping for Maccabee, for him to be in a community of like people who are going to like champion him in things like my worship pastor did for me. Like, I see this in your life. I see, like, let's encourage you in that. But also to challenge the iron sharpens iron thing. It's like, oh, we need that in all of our lives, don't we?
So helpful.
Yeah.
So helpful. I've got you've got another question, but we have got a question sent in from Annie, who has recorded a question for you.
It's so cute.
She is just as shy in the video as she is when she sees you in real life, but she's got a question to ask you. Here it is. I'll see if I can play it.
Annie, this is the best.
Hi Ellie, it's Annie here. This is my question. What is the importance of worshipping God to you?
That was her question, because I was
Annie.
explaining that you were a worship leader, so I had to then explain that. And then she said, okay, so why is it important that we worship? And so that was her question to you.
I love that. Can you tell her I said hi? Yeah. I mean, it's just like what we're meant to do, isn't it? And I know you probably hear that a lot, but we are like born to worship, and that's not just to sing on a Sunday. That can be almost like an easy thing to be like, worship is just for Sunday mornings. But, it talks about in Romans like that, take your everyday, ordinary life, you're eating, sleeping, drinking, going to sleep in places, and offering before God. And so that means like our everyday lives, making a cup of tea beautifully for a friend can be worship to God, or speaking to someone kindly and reacting in a kind way where you really don't want to is like worship to God.
Yeah.
It's in our everything, and if we come to terms with that, you just see so much more of what God's doing too. I love singing. I love leading worship, and that is one of my favorite things to do. But also hanging out with my boys is so important, and just as worshipful, if you know what I mean, because he loves it. The Lord loves it, doesn't he? And so that's a good question, Annie. What is worship? Just keep being you, just giving it to God, I think. The things that we get given, just keep giving it back to him as an offering. Thank you, God, for this fish and chips tonight. This is all because of you. Amen. Give it back to him, It doesn't have to be complicated, and really serious too. It's a joyful thing to worship. It's actually it can be a joyful thing. Obviously, lament, all of that too, so important. But it doesn't have to be a serious. We worship a joyful God.
Yeah. So good.
So everyday life.
Yeah.
So you grew up in a Christian family. Your dad was in Delirious. We spoke about that earlier. And so I grew up as a pastor's daughter as well.
Love it.
And
PK.
so PK. And often growing up, people would say to me, "Oh, it's amazing you're still a Christian, or you're still on the rails," because often PKs. Or when you grow up as a Christian, often you would lose your faith, or people go to too extreme. You either keep your faith or go off the rails. And I know, being a PK is a little bit of a goldfish bowl. And that was just in our church community in Swansea. People are looking at you and how are you living as a teenager?
Wow.
But for you, I guess it was on a different level. And so what helped you stay close to Jesus? What helped you continue in your faith? If we have some teenagers or students in uni listening now, what advice would you give them to stay on track with their faith?
That's a good question. I think for me personally in my journey, I've seen too much to not believe, and heard too much to not believe. What these same eyes as little Ellie has seen, when I was 5, I remember the miracles. I've seen it with my very own eyes, what God can do, that I can't not believe. And so I feel even in other people's life, I'm what he's done in my friend's life, my family's life, or I don't know, different words that I just struggle to not, because I've just seen it and I've heard it, and for myself. But I think it's always good to stay rooted somewhere. I'd say it's really we're not supposed to do it alone, are we? We're not supposed to do life. And
I was always amazed about that, because we used to go to the same church, and on a Sunday, every Sunday, your mum and your dad and all 6 of you always at church, helping out, serving on a cafe, doing jobs, helping with youth. And weirdly, I sometimes had imagined that if your life and job is Christian ministry, you might withdraw from that. But you guys were all in. It was this is our church. And all your family are still massively rooted in churches.
Yeah, I feel probably our upbringing, mum and dad were very much like, oh, this is what we do. Like, we go to church. And there wasn't much of like talking otherwise. You know, there would be like, not like strict, not like absolutely no, but just like, this is what we do as a family. We're going to go all together and we're going to serve here. What do you want to do? Do you want to do kids team? Do you want to serve, you know, be part of youth this day? That I'll take you here, I'll pick you up. Like, do you want to bring a friend? Like, it was just very much encouraged to like get involved. Like, we're not just going to take here and just like, let's be part of this community. What can we give? And I think mum and dad have just, I don't know, done a really good job of like, I think just, what's the word, ingraining in us of like, it's not actually all about us. Sorry, like it's not like our lives actually aren't all about us and what we'd like to do all the time, and what that like it's so important to serve and do things maybe that we don't really want to do sometimes, or that we'd rather not, or can someone else do that? But actually it's just growth. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I just remember the different things that we'd get. I'm like, oh, I'm growing in this, even though it's uncomfortable. I don't really want to do this. Like, wow, I'm like, people skills, you know, with serving at, I don't know, different thing at church. It's like, I'm learning how to have conversations with adults here when I'm a teen. I don't know, it's just like, it's like a holistic thing, isn't it? That it's, and to do something for other people rather than yourself. It's like life-giving. But yeah, it's definitely hasn't always been easy though. And like all of us kids have, you know, like, oh, I don't know, it's life, isn't it? Like it's not, I don't always want to go to church now. Like some days I'm like, oh.
I know someone, did I tell you, someone the other day said to me, I said, oh, do you come here much? We come here every other week. And then every other week we do something fun.
Oh, I love that.
I went,
fair play.
Fair enough. Sounds like a good model. Sounds really good.
Yeah, like...
Dagger to the heart.
It's so fun. Ellie, we have loved having you on the podcast, and we could have asked you another 10 questions, but we must stop. We must stop. We'll have you back for our next thing. But thank you so much. The book is really amazing and really helpful. We were also discussing, you've got a new EP out, which Chloe was listening to as she got the train up to London as well. And
it's lovely. I'd recommend it.
Yeah, we are. We're really grateful for all that you're doing. And we love that you were that you popped up to talk to us. Thank you. And if you ever have any ideas for 40 before 40, let's let me know.
Or if you're listening and have any ideas of 40 before 40, or have any questions that you want to be curious about and we'll be curious on your behalf, then you can email in at uk@alpha.org or DM us on our socials at runalpha. But thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.